Hi there and welcome to the Getting Started with the Aplos Architecture tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to create a project using the Aplos Architecture. I'm going to take you through downloading the necessary software, downloading the modules for the architecture, and then actually creating the project itself, including taking you through a few steps that might cause you some issues within Eclipse on the way. I hope you enjoy it. First, I'm going to go to GitHub because this is where all the source files are located. Once I'm in GitHub, I'm going to search for Aplos-Common. This is going to be the main module for the Aplos architecture. And on this page, you can see the README file below. I'm going to click on to open new tabs, the Java JDK, Eclipse, Tomcat 7, and MySQL. In the Java JDK, I'm going to accept the terms and conditions and download the 32-bit. And then in Eclipse, I'm going to download the 32-bit installation as well. Obviously, if you have a 64-bit machine, you'll download the 64-bit versions for all of these. And then in Tomcat, I'll download the 32-bit Windows zip. And then in MySQL, I'm going to download the MSI because it will help to install the workbench later on. The MySQL is already downloaded, so I'm going to click onto that and start the installation. I'm going to accept the terms and conditions and then choose to do a custom installation, so I can just select the parts that I require. In the MySQL connectors, I'm going to select the J connector, Java connector. In MySQL servers, I'll select the MySQL server itself, and I'll also select the workbench from the applications, and then just click the next button. Now on this page it's telling us we need the prerequisites, so I'm just going to execute that. And while my computer's thinking about what it's doing, I'm going to go down to the Tomcat, which is just downloaded now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this into my C directory. And the reason I move it into my C directory is because sometimes we have to integrate with other applications, and I've just found it a lot easier if it's a nice simple directory name for it and there's no spaces. So I'm just going to name it Tomcat 7 in my C directory. That's the quick pop-up to say that the prerequisite is installed now. That's good. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the MySQL installation. So, the prerequisite is installed. I'm going to execute the installation of the other bits. I'm going to fast forward time a little bit. Ta-da! And everything has been installed. So I'm going to go next now to start to configure the environment. I'm just going to keep that as it is. I'm going to name my root password AA tutorial. Obviously you should name yours something secure. Okay, everything default, and then just execute that. Okay, so that's the MySQL installation finished. So now that I've loaded up the MySQL, I'm going to put in my AA tutorial password and save that into the vault. And I'm going to open it up and I'm going to create a database. By selecting the new schema button there. I'm going to call it AA tutorial again, and then I'm going to create a user that can access this, and again I'm going to call them AA tutorial, and I'm going to use the password AA tutorial. Obviously again you're going to want to create something more secure for your environment, but just remember what you set your username password to. Obviously I'm going to set the schema privileges for this database, and I'm going to give all privileges to the user that I just created. You might want to set something more secure. Next I'll install the Java JDK. I'm just going to keep all the default settings nice and simple. And then once that's done, I'm going to go to the Eclipse download, and I'm going to open the containing folder, and I'm going to extract the contents of the zip. I'm going to copy the contents into the program files in my C directory. And then once here, I'm going to create a shortcut to the exe file and send it to my desktop. This is just so that I can easily start it in the future. I'm going to start Eclipse now, and I'm going to let it create the workspace in the default directory, and then I'm going to select for it to use that workspace by default in future. I'm then going to go to GitHub and the Aplos common README file, and I'm going to select the update URL for subclips. I'm then going to go back to Eclipse, and I'm going to go to the Help menu, Install Software, and I'm going to copy that URL into the bar, click Add, and name it as Subclips. I'll then select Subclips from the menu, which is pulled from the URL. Click Next, Next again, and I'll agree to the terms and conditions. I'm then going to go back to GitHub, and I'm going to now select the update URL for AspectJ. I'm going to go back to Eclipse. It's asking me here to restart Eclipse to install the subclip, so I'll let it do that. Once Eclipse is restarted, I'm going to go to the Help menu and then select Install Software. I'm then going to paste the AspectJ update URL, and I'm going to name it AJDT Tools. I'm then going to select the first option in the list, which is AspectJ Development Tools. I'll select Next, Next, and then I'm going to agree to the terms and conditions. Eclipse will then ask to restart, which I'll let it do, and complete the AspectJ installation. In Eclipse, I'm now going to show the SVN repository exploring. You can click the button in the top right hand corner and select SVN repository exploring from the list. I'm then going to go to GitHub, and I'm going to go to the main Aplos systems page. Here you can see all of the modules, and I'm just going to go through each one in turn, and I'm going to copy the URL from the address bar, and then I'm going to go to Eclipse with that URL, and then I'll right click, new repository location, paste that in, and then go on to the next module. This will connect all of the modules to Eclipse so that we can download them in a moment. There's 6 modules in total, and one of them is the Aplos CMS, which, although we're not going to be using, I thought we should download it here just in case you want to use it in future projects. Okay, so now with all of the projects connected, we need to check them out. So if we right click on Trunk and select Checkout, and then we're going to check them out as, and we're going to put in the project name, the name of the module. And then we just select Finish, and that will start downloading the files into your Eclipse. I'm going to go through each project one by one, and I'm going to do the same thing. Then I'm going to switch back to the Java EE perspective. I'm going to select all of the projects. I'm going to right click and then configure convert to Maven project. While my computer is thinking about this, I'm going to set a preference which you don't have to copy, but I just find really helps with the performance of Eclipse. Go to Windows Preferences, and then in the menu select Validation. And what I'm going to do is turn off the validation for all files which aren't Java. So from the list, I'm going to untick the ones from EJB Validator right down to Tag Library Descriptor. And you'll find that your builds will build a lot faster now, and I don't really miss the validation that this provides. Now I'm going to create the jars for the architecture. Right click on Root, go to Run As and Maven Install, and Maven will then install that jar into the Maven repository. I'm going to then do it to Common. You can see here there's a red mark next to Common though. It looks like it's not picked up the AspectJ. So I'm going to go in and configure it to an AspectJ project. In the Eclipse before, this was all done automatically, but for some reason in the Mars Eclipse I'm having to do this by hand. I even have to go in to configure the build path and add the aspect J folder to the source folders. So once that's finished building, I'm going to continue creating the jar. So right click, run as, and Maven install. You need to do these in the same order I'm doing them here. So do root first, common, parent root, core, and then I'm going to do CMS and the Aplos archetype. The next thing that I'm going to do is go into the Aplos archetype project, and I'm going to click on the POM file. This is just so that I can see the version number of the project, which as you can see is 4.4. I'm then going to go to new project, and I'm going to create a Maven project. Just going to click next, and then I'm going to add the archetype. So the group ID is com.aplos. The archetype ID is aplos-archetype, as you can see above in the POM file, and the version number 4.4. For some reason in this Eclipse, again, it doesn't seem to pick it up, so I'm going to close that dialog and I'm going to start again. Right click in the project folder, new project, Maven project. I'm going to click on that, next. And if you scroll to the top, you can see the Aplos archetype. Brilliant. So I'm going to put in the variables. I'm going to group ID com.aplos again. The artifact ID is going to be AA tutorial. I'm going to put the project name variable as AA tutorial, and the project type is going to be a common project. So I'll type that in. Click finish, and it will now create my AA tutorial project. So I'm now going to add Tomcat into the Eclipse environment. So I go to the Servers tab, I click that link, and then in there I'm going to select Tomcat 7 from the Apache folder and click Next. And then I'm going to add the AA tutorial project to the Tomcat 7. And then all I need to do is to clean the Tomcat 7, which is a bit of an Eclipse stance, and then I'm going to start it debugging. And you can see here from the console that it's going to go through all the different stages of startup. And then once it's started, I'm going to go to Chrome and I'm going to type in the URL localhost :8080/AA tutorial/common/login.jsf. Unfortunately, as you can see, that's an error page. So I'm going back into Eclipse to find out what's happened. Now I'm going to show you to open a view here, which is the debug view. I find it really helpful. So open that. And then I'm also going to show the debug bar. And then I just find this really helpful for actually stopping the project really quickly. Otherwise it can take some time in the server view. And I'm just looking through the startup and I can't see any big error messages there. So I'm going to have a look at the publishing folder for Eclipse. To get there, you need to go to your user account, find your workspace, and then go to the metadata plugins. And then down below it's got org eclipse wst server.core, and then the temp0 folder, wt web apps, your folder, webinf, and then the lib folder. And you can see here that the common jar hasn't been put into that build. So I'm going to go back to the project, I'm going to look at the build path, check out the deployment assembly, and as you can see, core isn't in there. Eclipse really should have picked this up. Again, Mars is a new Eclipse for me. I'm not sure why it's doing this, but I'm just going to add that in, make sure that it copies it across. I could have taken this out of the tutorial, but I just wanted to show you guys just so that you understood a bit about what's going on behind the scenes with Eclipse. Once all of this is set up, it's much faster than this. But you will obviously get issues as you develop within an IDE, having to play about it not doing it exactly as you'd expect it to work. So now when I restart the project, and again you can see the output in the console for the startup. And once it has started up, I'm going to go back to Chrome, and I'm simply going to refresh that URL again. And our application has started. Excellent. So I'm going to type in the super username and password here. If you don't know what that is, then it is stored when you create your project in the web app, and the web.xml file, and go to source, and then you can see it as a context initialization parameter. This will help you later on because it auto logs you into this account. Okay, so I'm going to type in the website name and also type in the host name, and then I'm going to select the package folder from the drop down list and click OK. Now it's quite important to note this red message in the left hand side. It tells you that you must now stop the server. I'm going to do that in the debug view, and then I'm going to restart it again. And while it's restarting, I'm going to go back to Chrome, and then in the URL I'm going to go back to the common/login.jsf. And then once that's loaded up, I'm going to type in the super username and password and click login. And there we go, we have a new system ready to get started in the Aplos architecture. You've got the user tab set up by default, common configuration, the My Company, and also the email page. You're ready to go, so please watch a few more of our articles to get the most from this amazing architecture.